In 1957, we took the Great American Vacation. Part of the inspiration was our pink and white two-tone Mercury Turnpike cruiser with a back window that could be lowered electronically. I could practically crawl out onto the trunk while Dad was cruising down the highway at 85 miles an hour. We would visit our cousins in Wyoming, as far as we knew, the only other kids in the world who had to bear the name Weeds. Among all the sisters in Dad's family was an older brother, Lloyd Buster Weed. As kids, my father Roy followed Big Brother Bus on his bicycle. As grown men, Bus followed Roy to Bible school and into the ministry. They grew up in Selfridge, North Dakota, a remote frontier town bordering what was then called the Sioux Indian Reservation. In the cold, long winters, there was not much to do but play in the school gym. 1931, Selfridge won the state basketball title. Bus, a tall, lanky forward, and Roy with a sensational mid-court hook shot. Eventually, both Bus and Roy would pursue ministerial careers in the Assemblies of God, their doting sisters egging them on. While my father Roy would end up in Indiana, Uncle Bus would pastor churches all over the country. Big Springs, Nebraska, Julesburg, Colorado, Newcastle, Wyoming, Norfolk, Nebraska, Leeds, South Dakota, Riverton, Wyoming, Linton, Indiana, Gillette, Wyoming, Newell, South Dakota, Orlando, Florida, Anderson, Indiana, Newell, South Dakota again. In the summer of 1957, the Lloyd Weeds were in the middle of their Wyoming experience. Uncle Bus and Aunt Millie, the twins, Joe for Bill, Ray for me, and Rich for Tim. We had a blast. The two-car family tour meandered through the Black Hills. We took in Rapid City, where we visited Mount Rushmore, where Uncle Bus swapped stories about Sitting Bull with an old Indian. Jim, Bill, and I took pictures with the stone-faced presidents, and then we toured Dinosaur Park. For years, we've been watching the home movies of Uncle Bus touching that bear, and all of us longed to gain such family immortality for ourselves, wondering if there'd be a chance this time. After all, we were faithfully following the trail of earlier legendary family vacations. At Yellowstone, we waited patiently 45 minutes for Old Faithful to ignite again. But when a buffalo bull started snorting in Custer National Park and an irritable black bear rejected Uncle Bus's attempts at a sequel, well, we decided that life with all our limbs intact was not so boring after all. On the long car rides, I told Tim and Richard stories, which amused me as much as them. We couldn't even afford a Motel 6, which was non-existent in those days. We simply slept on the floor of a willing church. But who cared? The 1957 trip was such a hit that we did it all over again the next year, this time sticking closer to Gillette, spending more time on horseback and less in cars. There was a horse for each of us, and one day we packed lunches. We rode out across the empty plains till sunset, sidestepping prairie dog towns, feeling very much as if we had passed through some miraculous time warp back into the Old West. That summer, my big brother Jim took me on my first and last hunting excursion. A couple of hours, a couple of rabbits. Dad took us to see his father's grave in Rapid City, and he lingered so long that we started getting bored, started running through the graveyard. 1957 had apparently been a teaser for him. It must have stirred old feelings that he didn't know he had. On this second trip, 1958, he made sure to visit the old church where his life had so changed, and the old town that had been the center of so many childhood adventures. When we visited the old house where he and Bus and their sisters had been raised, he paused a long time, It was clear that he was hearing and seeing things that the rest of us would never know. Would listen to him now if he were here to talk about it, but he is gone too, and with him so many memories that will never be known.